What's up YouTube? Jeff back again from dopetechdaily.com. Today I'm super excited to bring you guys my official full review of the OnePlus 3. Now if you guys have been following me over on Twitter and Instagram, you probably already know how I feel about this phone, but we're going to go ahead and get all the main points out in this video. I've decided to change things up a little bit on my official full review format just to make it a little more conducive to people getting the info they want right up front, because I know these videos are long. So what I'm going to do is start off with 3 things I love about this phone, 3 things I don't like about the phone, and then I'll get to all the stuff that's sort of in between after that. As usual, there will be an official outline below. If you guys want to skip around, the video is long again. Find the stuff you're interested in. Watch only those parts. I don't want to make you sit through something you're not interested in. If you want to see what I think about the whole phone, watch the whole video. I'm sure you'll be happy with that as well. And if you have any questions, of course, you can drop them in the comments below. All right, so first, the thing I really love about the OnePlus 3, first and foremost, is the build. If you watched my OnePlus 2 review last year, I didn't like the sandstone back. I didn't like the overall feel of the phone. I thought it was a little chunky. I had quite a few complaints. This year, they went with the all-metal construction. Just a beautiful phone overall. As I said in my unboxing video, it's quite thin, as you guys can see. The only minor complaint is this camera hump on the back. You got the really clean OnePlus branding here in this color that I said in the unboxing. Looks exactly like Apple Space Gray, and I still maintain that it really does, but it looks great overall. Nice and smooth, really easy to hold this phone in the hand. Even though it's 5.5-inch screen, you get a really easy to palm sort of form factor here. The buttons here also very responsive, easy to click, but not so easy that you're going to accidentally press them. And then another thing that I really love about the phone, which you can notice on the outward build, is the alert slider, which a lot of people have mentioned. You can easily turn your phone from all notifications to priority to silent. It's just fantastic overall. I think OnePlus did a great job. They listened to customers who said that they wanted a premium build when it comes to the phone, and they delivered with the premium build. I'm very impressed. I said this in my original unboxing video as well. I think this build is nicer and feels better in hand than the LG G5. As you guys know, I wasn't a huge fan of that phone, and this costs less at the initial launch. Now, you can probably get a G5 for about the same price now, but at launch, it costs less money. And so overall, very impressed with what OnePlus did here. The next thing I really love, if you guys remember from my OnePlus 2 review last year, the one thing that I praised, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the phone, was the software and all of the customization you can do. You can see here I'm running the dark mode with the purple accents for all of my various icons and the sliders there. And it's really nice. There's so many customization options. If you go into settings and customization, you can change the dark mode. Again, the accents, you can even customize all of your LEDs, which I did, sort of so I know what's going on with each one. You can even get into doing that even finer with the per app notifications, sort of change the color if you use an individual app a lot. You can change the status bar by choosing what's going to actually be in there if you don't want some of those things up there. Really nice. So those are the options that are in customization themselves, but the customization goes far beyond that. You can go into the buttons, you can change the backlight on for your capacitive keys if you want that on or off. You can swap the order, which I went ahead and did because I've been using a Samsung phone for a while and I wanted to have that same orientation because I kept doing things incorrectly. You can change some various long and short presses for the recents button, the back button, and the home button if you want to set those up. And you can also change to on-screen buttons for the navigation if that's what you prefer. And then lastly, you can also change a bunch of gestures. There's lots of gestures here that you would like to see. Double tap to wake. You can draw an O to open the camera, draw a V to toggle the flashlight. You can also draw to 2 fingers to play or pause the music. I find that one a little strange, so I have that one turned off. But all of these are some fantastic features when it comes to customizing your phone. You can also change the way the alert slider works, change your priority and silent settings, which gives you full control over how you use the alert slider, which is another nice thing as well. So overall, just fantastic in terms of what you can do in the settings. But if you go even further, the other thing I love about the software on the OnePlus 3 and Oxygen OS is that the launcher actually allows you to customize a lot of things. If you hold down on the home screen, go down here to customize, you can change a lot of things on your home screen without even needing to install a custom launcher. I usually install Nova or Action Launcher 3. On here, there's absolutely no need to do that. First, you can remove Shelf, which I don't really like, so I took away the swipe right from home to access that. Kept the quick search, kept the quick notifications. If you swipe to the right, you can control how the Google search bar is going to look, which I changed. I left that as the stock, but I changed it to that for a while. It looks pretty nice with both. And then the other thing that's awesome, you can change your icons. You can see I've got several custom icon packs right now. Right now, I am running the Durgon icon pack right there. A lot of people ask me about that one. They always do. Durgon is great. That's what I'm running now. You can change the icon size as well, which I've got set to small. And then also change your grid inside your actual app drawer. You can change that from small, standard to large. I change it on large because I want as many apps there as possible. So essentially, with all of these options that you get with the stock launcher in Oxygen OS, you don't even need a custom launcher, or I haven't found a need for one. I might throw Action Launcher 3 on here eventually just because I really like things like covers and things like that, which Action Launcher 3 adds that you don't get in Oxygen OS. But if you're just looking for basic launcher features and the ability to use a custom icon pack, there you go. Oxygen OS takes care of that. Now, aside from just the customization, I also love everything else about the Oxygen OS. Super smooth. To be honest with you, in day-to-day use, I found this phone to be more smooth than my Exynos S7 Edge. I know a lot of people have done speed tests and RAM management and all that. I'll talk about that in a bit, but I mean using light apps like Gmail, like Hangouts, and typing in those apps. So one app specifically that I get a lot of lag in is Hangouts, and on here I don't get much lag at all. So on here, there's really no issues at all. I can type really quickly, and I don't get any sort of lag or jank when I'm typing. On my S7 Edge, if I type something, it really sort of breaks down and it starts getting slow, and you can barely see the words as I'm typing them in real time. Super annoying, and I haven't had that problem yet on the OnePlus 3. Of course, that could also develop over time, so we'll see. But so far, I've had no lag, and I've been very impressed with how the phone handles. And that's not only a function of the 6 gigabytes of RAM, Snapdragon 820, but also the great optimization that they've put into Oxygen OS, which is very light and very close to stock Android. So I'm definitely happy to see that. I think OnePlus did a great job. The third thing that I really, really love on the OnePlus 3, and that is actually something that you can't really see here except for the port, and that is the dash charging. So the OnePlus 3 comes with a USB Type-C charger, as you can see. Last year, it also had USB Type-C on the OnePlus 2, but as you remember, it wasn't any sort of fast or quick charge through the OnePlus, through the Type-C port. You just got that port, and it really was there in name only, so they could be the first phone to have it. I sort of criticized them for that last year. But this year, they've got their own quick charge technology, this dash charge, and it's pretty sweet, actually. The dash charge allows you to get your phone in about 60 minutes. You can go from 0 to 90, and I've used it quite a few times very, very effectively. It is very fast. I found it to be a little faster than my S7 Edge. Of course, it's got a smaller capacity battery, which we'll talk about in a bit. But dash charge is really great. It's great to see that OnePlus implemented that on this phone, and to have that fast charging along with USB Type-C this year is definitely a nice thing to have, especially again for the price point. We're talking about $400. That's a great added value to get that. All right, so now let's get into some things that I don't like about the OnePlus 3. And again, I really like this phone, so these are just some minor complaints. Nothing too crazy, nothing that I don't, that's a deal breaker, obviously. Just some minor pain points for me. And the first one, of course, is the RAM management. So a lot of people pointed this out, you know, Ash from C4E Tech. A lot of people did speed tests, and OnePlus has issued an update to fix this. I just haven't gotten it yet. If you run a whole lot of apps, this phone has 6 gigabytes of RAM, so you would hope that it would hold all of those apps in memory, and you would be able to run, you know, intensive games back to back and open them without them sort of having to reload. That doesn't happen, so if you're a really intense user and you play a lot of games, you're going to find that the RAM management on here is a bit lacking. Now, as I mentioned, this is not a deal breaker because when it comes to everyday apps like Hangouts, Chrome, Gmail, Twitter clients like Falcon Pro or Instagram, you'll find that those do load and they stay in memory for the most part for quite a while. I haven't had any problems with those apps reloading constantly. But if you play a lot of games, and I've recently gotten into playing Pokemon Go since it was released a couple days ago, if you play a bunch of games like that, you know, like Asphalt, these other games that are sort of racing games or graphic intensive games, those games are going to reload if you play a whole bunch of them in a row. Now, the update that OnePlus released is going to address this, and supposedly it's going to allow you to hold 3 more apps in memory. And while that's great, I don't know that that really fixes the problem as a whole. It's certainly an improvement, but it's still something to consider. I don't know that the S7 Edge does a much better job. If you look at the speed test, it finished ahead of the OnePlus 3 without the fix by a few seconds. Also, if you root the phone, you can actually take full advantage of the 6 gigabytes of RAM by doing a slight tweak And again, Ash at C4E Tech, he made a video on that. I'll link it below. I did try that, but the downside to that is you get pretty poor battery life in my experience. I was getting significantly worse battery life on the phone when I was doing that. The next thing that I don't like about the OnePlus 3, at least this is not a huge problem, I found that the fingerprint scanner isn't quite as accurate as on my S7 Edge. Now, that is maybe not everyone's experience, but I found that on the OnePlus 3, occasionally I will go to put my finger there, and as you can see right there, if it's on the side, it won't work. You can see I just did it 3 times, too many attempts. So I've tried multiple times to rescan my fingers, even scan it in multiple times, and still, if I get the edges of my thumb, it won't work, especially this back edge. And I don't know if that's just maybe my experience. I've read reviews where other people have had good experience with the fingerprint scanner, but for me, I kind of have to hit it right on the front of my thumb, even though I've played around with trying to scan it in multiple times so that it would work, but I haven't really had much luck. So again, that's not a deal breaker, and it's certainly a good fingerprint scanner for the price. I just haven't found it better than the other fingerprint scanners on the flagships so far this year. And then the last thing that I don't really necessarily like about the OnePlus 3, that is the speaker. It's a bottom firing speaker here, as you can see. It's not necessarily that great. Overall, the speaker quality for bottom firing speakers is sort of hit or miss. I think the HTC 10 still has probably the best one that's bottom firing that I've seen. This one's kind of just meh, it's kind of mediocre. If you're just watching some YouTube videos like this one, you're not going to find it too bad, but if you want to listen to some music out of your phone, you're going to be pretty disappointed. And also when you hold the phone, it's pretty easy to cover up the speaker because you're going to be holding it like this. You're going to cover up part of the speaker with your hand, depending on how you hold it, but most natural positions that you would hold the phone from are going to cover up part of the speaker. So that's the third thing. So 3 very small things. My fingerprint scanner, I find it to work a little hit or miss when it comes to the border areas of my finger. The speaker, definitely not the best. Pretty mediocre in terms of the speaker department overall. And then of course the third thing there that I mentioned is the RAM management, which OnePlus has working on an update I just haven't received, and hopefully they'll do some further improvement with that. Okay, so those are my 3 big things that I like and dislike about the phone. Now to talk about some of the final things that are sort of in the middle. Of course, everybody cares about the camera, so let me talk about that, my experience with the camera. I find there's a nice set of options here. I used the time-lapse on 4th of July to take some fireworks. I'll show that in a second. The photos overall are good if you have decent lighting. I found that the low light capability of the camera is quite a bit below the S7 Edge in my opinion. I did find that in terms of the overall video, the front-facing video on the S7 is about the same as the one on the OnePlus 3. The OnePlus 3 is very good at taking some front-facing video, but in terms of the rear camera, the video sometimes lags behind the S7 Edge and also the HTC 10. It does have a nice manual mode where you can control ISO, you can control your white balance, everything like that. I had good success with the manual mode as well. The only issue is sometimes the ISO settings, they seem to be a little sensitive in that perhaps it's not exactly at the ISO that you're using. It'll be overly bright or overly dark for what I think that ISO should be, just based on my intuition, just compared to some of the other cameras. And then of course you got panorama mode and slow motion. The slow motion is pretty decent. It's not as good as the S7 Edge in my opinion overall, but not a bad set of features for the camera app. I think the camera app's pretty usable. It's pretty intuitive. There's really nothing to write home about. You do have HDR up there at the top. If you use the HDR, I find that it takes a little bit better pictures. Of course, you can toggle the HDR on, off, or on auto up here. And then here are some pictures that I took with the OnePlus 3. Again, all of these you can see on my Instagram. This is a time lapse that I took of the grand finale of the fireworks Chase Field the other night for the 4th of July. That was pretty cool. It looks pretty nice. I took a whole bunch of fireworks photos, so let me go to the gallery here, and I'll show you guys a couple more that are pretty interesting photos. Again, you can check all these out on Instagram. These are all fireworks, so let me just get through those because most of those aren't good. This is a selfie I took. I posted on Instagram. Picture of my mom here. Some pictures from the game. So I took a bunch of pictures of her. That was a blurry one. I got some bad shots. Picture of the stadium itself. Overall, you can see with good lighting, even this is with the roof closed. Indoors, the stadium is an indoor stadium with the roof closed. And it took pretty good shots. I mean, these are pretty low light shots, and it still did a pretty good job. So here's some pictures of my sneakers. A lot of these are on Instagram. Some of these are, it's a picture of my new car. This is at night. I thought it did a pretty good job at night. Not as good as the S7 Edge, of course. This is inside of a dark movie theater. I thought this was an especially good picture that the OnePlus 3 took. So if you want to check these out over on my Instagram, feel free to go over and take a look. You can see what the OnePlus 3 is capable of. But I would say in terms of the rear camera, it's not quite as good as the S7 Edge in good lighting. In low light. But in good lighting, it can compete and hold its own. I think it has truer colors, less saturated than the S7 Edge if you're taking a picture in daylight. And some people may like that. But when it comes to low light, you're definitely not going to get as good a performance. The pictures aren't going to be as bright. So in terms of video, I really only took video in terms of the slow motion and also the time lapse there. And I took a few front-facing videos, but I didn't post any vlogs or anything. I think in terms of the video, the overall quality from the front-facing camera on the OnePlus 3 is very, very good. I think it might actually be better than the S7 Edge, or definitely very close to it. They're very close. When it comes to video on the rear camera, though, the stabilization just not quite as good in my opinion. From what I noticed, the S7 Edge performs quite a bit better there overall. Some of the other things that are in between, I think the camera again is great in good lighting, not quite as good in low light, but of course it's a $400 phone. Some of the other things are battery life. Now I haven't given a full charge to it today, so these are going to be a little skewed. Screen on time, 1 hour and 55 minutes, down to 72%. The battery life has been sort of hit or miss when it comes to the overall battery life. Some days I'll get 5 hours screen on time, other days I'll get 3 hours screen on time. Just depends on what I'm doing with the phone. I have had my smartwatch paired, I've had my LG Tone Infinite paired, and I've had Bluetooth paired to a Bluetooth speaker at my office or my headphones on most days. So it has been pretty heavy use, but the battery life sort of hit or miss for me. It's definitely been adequate enough, getting at least 3.5 hours a day. And with the dash charging, it's not a huge problem because I can charge up very quickly. It would have been nice to have wireless charging, but again, for $400, I can't complain too much. If you do turn on the dark mode, I found that does help the battery life, and that's one of the reasons that I do have that feature on. So overall, very impressed with the OnePlus 3. The performance is great, as I said. The Snapdragon 820, I've already said everything there is to say about that in previous videos, reviews of flagships this year. Performance is great in gaming and everything like that, of course. One other thing to comment on is the screen quality. Now, they did go with the AMOLED screen this year, which gives you some deeper blacks and also gives you more saturated colors. They're not as saturated as the S7 Edge, as you would probably expect. Samsung's AMOLED panels they use in their own phones, probably the best ones out there. But it does give you a little bit of savings when it comes to battery life if you're using a darker background, as I mentioned. And also it does give you, in my opinion anyway, better viewing angles if you're using the phone, you know, sort of at an angle. I mean, not that many times that you are, but when you can see it outdoors as well, you get a nice amount of brightness from this display. Even in the Arizona sun, which is where I use this phone the majority of the time when I'm outdoors here in Phoenix, it's very bright and I'm still able to see the display. That's saying a lot. For a 1080p display, I'd say it's definitely one of the best 1080p displays that I have seen on a phone. All right, so I think that's pretty much it that I have to say about the OnePlus 3. I love this phone. It's very impressive. For $400, I think it's the best value in Android today. I'm still going to stand by my original comments that the S7 Edge is the best phone that you can actually buy on the Android market today because it's got waterproofing, the camera is better in low light, you've got a little bit better performance in the absence of the RAM management fix if you want to root it. The battery life is better, and I think the screen is marginally better as well. You've got the higher resolution, and I do think it's a little bit brighter. But overall, again, you got to compare the price difference. If you've got that price differential, you're looking at an extra $300 for an S7 Edge versus $400 for the OnePlus 3 if you're buying it new. That's a huge deal, and so I think I would recommend this phone to anyone, especially looking to get into Android at a great value with a lot of features. All right, so if you guys have any questions for me on the OnePlus 3, my experience, you want to see more the full resolution photos or anything like that, feel free to hit me up in the comment section below. I'll be happy to get back to you guys. You can also follow me over on Instagram, Twitter, Google+, the links in the description. Dope Tech Daily as well. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoy my content so I can make more videos like this. I appreciate you guys checking out this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.